Oh yeah!
Okay, so let's move on to our wide receiver studs, the guys that we think are definite starts at wide receiver. Jeff, want to take us through those?
Sure. Our studs for week one, as of week one: Chad Johnson, Steve Smith, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, Terrell Owens, Larry Fitzgerald, and Roy Williams. And again, we left out some guys in here that you probably see as studs. I'm not going to name them, but I'm sure you know who we're talking about. And we're going to leave them because those are the guys that we believe are absolute starters at this stage of the season. So again, we got some email questions regarding lineups. So Jason, I'm going to throw one your way.
Very good.
All right? Jamal Reed of Phoenix, Arizona wrote, "Who should I start this week? Chris Chambers, they play at Washington, or Randy Moss, they play at the New York Jets." What do you think, Jason?
I'd start Chris Chambers this week. Randy Moss, you don't know. There were even rumors earlier in the week that he was going to be cut by New England, believe it or not.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, how far can you fall in a couple of years, you know? Chris Chambers isn't that great either. I mean, neither of these guys is that great of a pick for a number 2 or number 3 wide receiver. But I feel like Chris Chambers has more of a potential for a breakout game against Washington. Remember, I picked Trent Green as my sleeper, thinking that Miami defense is going to give them the ball in positions where they'll have a chance to succeed. And I feel like Chris Chambers is Miami's number 1 target. So I feel like if I pick Trent Green as my sleeper, I'm going to go with Chris Chambers here as well.
Fair enough.
Stay the course.
Okay.
And the other question we have is from Joseph Koch, or is it Coach? Joseph, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. From Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Question is, should I start Jericho Cotchery playing in New York against New England?
Okay.
Or should I start Kevin Curtis playing at Green Bay? His first game as a Philadelphia Eagle.
I would go with Kevin Curtis myself. I think the Green Bay secondary is very weak, and the Philadelphia Eagles usually come out, flying. They usually put up a lot of points in week 1s of NFL seasons. Kevin Curtis is a really, in general, sleeper this year at wide receiver. He's got tremendous speed, quickness, very tough to cover. He's in the Philadelphia offense for the first year, and I think McNabb's going to use him a lot right off the bat, showing everyone what they have and what they brought in during the offseason. So I would go with Kevin Curtis over Cotchery. Cotchery is a decent option this week. The New England secondary, not that great. They lost Rodney Harrison in the first four games of the season. However, I would stick with Kevin Curtis. I think he has more chance for a touchdown this week and some decent yardage.
And we're going to list our sleepers now for week 1 for wide receivers. Jeff, want to take us through who your sleeper is?
Sure, and if you've watched any of our previous videos, especially the wide receiver video, Santonio Holmes of the Pittsburgh Steelers is my sleeper for this week. I don't even know if he's a sleeper anymore. I think everyone knows about him. The cat's out of the bag. This guy's going to be a star. He should be in your lineup this week. The Steelers play the Cleveland Browns, starting a rookie cornerback at the second cornerback position against Santonio Holmes. That's a total mismatch. Holmes should be good for close to 100 yards, 1 to 2 touchdowns in my opinion for this upcoming week at Cleveland. Jason, who's your sleeper for this week?
My sleeper for this week is Deion Branch of Seattle Seahawks. They play against Tampa Bay this week. Everybody seems to have forgotten about Seattle a little bit in that NFC West with the Arizona offense, the St. Louis offense, and the San Francisco offense. Seattle's kind of they're flying under the radar, and
they are. Yeah,
they are. And I feel like with Deion Branch starting his first full year now in Seattle, knows the offense thoroughly. He was a great target of Tom Brady in New England, and I think he could be quite a factor up in Seattle.
Okay, very good. Now, we'll move on to the tight end position. Now, with the tight end position, it's kind of a different position because there are not a lot of strong tight end number 2s on your lineup. So our list of studs here is probably a little longer than we'd like. However, it's very tough not to start one of these guys regardless of the matchups for that week. So Jason, why don't you take us through the tight end studs as of week 1.
Our tight end studs are Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez, Todd Heap, Kellen Winslow, Jeremy Shockey, Vernon Davis, Chris Cooley, and Algie Crumpler.
Okay. And again, we got some email questions. Jason, why don't you give me the email question first, and I'll give you
Certainly.
one back.
Question on tight ends that I have is from Eric Lamar of Toronto, Canada. He asks, should I start Owen Daniels?
Owen Wilson. That's a Freudian slip
I don't think
there.
I'd start him.
I don't think he's in too good shape for week 1.
He's not ready to start.
Owen Daniels. Okay.
Owen Daniels playing Kansas City at home,
Okay.
or LJ Smith playing at Green Bay.
That is a very tough one. LJ Smith is practicing this week. Supposedly is healthy. Owen Daniels is just a heck of a matchup against the Kansas City defense. I would go with Owen Daniels on this one just because of the injury status of LJ Smith. I don't believe he's 100%. The Eagles say he is. I don't quite buy it. Owen Daniels is a fantastic matchup. Matt Schaub is my sleeper quarterback, and I think Owen Daniels can be a guy that can get a touchdown and some yardage this week against the Kansas City defense.
He did have a couple big weeks last year, if I remember right. And Matt Schaub looks good. So who knows? Preseason, who knows, right?
And again, who knows, but they're going to Owen Daniels in the preseason. He has a lot of catches so far and some yards, so why not just keep going with that, with what's working in the preseason? Jason, I've got an email question for you from Sean Munhall in Las Vegas, Nevada. His question is, Heath Miller, who plays at Cleveland, or Dallas Clark, who plays New Orleans at home on Thursday night? What do you think?
Sean, in this case, I'd go with Dallas Clark. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to run the ball like crazy. They're going to run the ball down Cleveland's throat. And Indianapolis, they want to put on a show week 1. Thursday night, they're in the spotlight. Peyton Manning's going to come out throwing the ball. I really believe it. Granted, Joseph Addai will have a nice game too. I think they're going to put points on the board in Indianapolis. I think they're going to put up a lot of offense, and Dallas Clark should benefit somewhat from that. Who knows? They have so many options there, but I'd still go with Dallas Clark.
Okay, that's a tough one. That's a very tough one to analyze. So now we're going to give you a sleeper from each one of us at the tight end position for week 1. Jason?
My sleeper is Alex Smith of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He generally has a strong start to the season. Comes out blazing early on in the season, calms down a little bit. So I picked him as my week number 1 sleeper, just from past experience. Jeff,
You're right. Alex Smith is one of those guys that always seems to start off week 1, week 2, week 3.
And then what happened? He's gone. Like you don't even see him in the box
When you
score.
said that, it reminded me, like, you're right. This guy always seems like he's going to be a barn burner.
Right.
My week 1 sleeper, and some people have heard of this guy, is Jeff King in Carolina. He was the former basketball player at Virginia Tech. He also played football. It's his second year in the system in Carolina. He is the starter now. Chris Mangum is gone. And I think Jake Delhomme and him are going to have some good rapport early on. They're going to try to feed him the ball, try to get some pressure off of Steve Smith because there's really not a solid number 2 wide receiver option. I think Jeff King could be a sleeper, although a deep sleeper at the tight end position for week 1. Email your fantasy lineup questions prior to Wednesday of next week to fantasywiseguys@hotmail.com.
And tune in next week on YouTube or on fantasywiseguys.com, where we'll be answering your questions.
And, we take this very seriously. We are fantasy experts. We're gurus. We've been doing this for over 10 years. We've won big cash money leagues, and we know that we can help you with your lineup decisions.
Don't be afraid to ask us your questions regarding matchups that your questions about. If you do, we'll help you dominate your league.
Yeah, I mean, some of the other people that put up some videos and some websites, ask them about how well they've done in their leagues, and I'm sure you'll get some very mixed results. We have won many leagues, and we will help you dominate your league. So please email your questions again to fantasywiseguys@hotmail.com. Also, if you're looking for good fantasy football information and statistics, please visit my website, allfantasyfootballlinks.com, and it'll provide you with informative, updated sites for 2007, purely fantasy football, and you will get some very good fantasy information from those sites.
Don't forget to tell your friends about fantasywiseguys.com. We are the gurus of fantasy football analysis. Check us out. We want to help you.
Take care.